श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्. Go to the next slide. Next slide. Narayana namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayate nashta prayeshu vadyeshu nityam bhagavati sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke Bhaktir bhavati bhaishtiki Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Ashatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhaktaranga Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarvyascha kripasindhubhyev cha paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. From my humble obeisance and all the Vaishnavas assembled here. Although I have no qualification of being here, I was asked to speak this morning. So if I have, there are any mistakes, anything that I've missed, please feel free to correct me at the end. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 14, Verse 19. Tasya rajño mahabhaga bhagavan bhuta bhavanah paritishyati vishwatma tishtatho nija shasane. Tasya rajño mahabhaga bhagavan bhuta bhavanah paritushyati vishwatma tishtatho nija shasane. Tasya rajño mahabhagam bhagavan bhuta bhavanam paritushyati vishwatma tishtatho nija shasane. Tasya rajño mahabhagam bhagavan bhuta bhavanam paritushyati vishwatma tishtatho nija shasane.
Paritushyati vishwatma tishtatho nija shasane. Tasya rajño mahabhaga
Bhagavan bhuta bhavanah paritushyati vishwatma Tishthato Nija Shasane. Tasya, with him, Ragnya, the king, Mahabhaga, O noble one, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhutha Bhavanaha, who is the original cause of the cosmic manifestation, Paridushyati, becomes satisfied, Vishwatma, the super soul of the entire universe, Tishtataha, being situated, Nija Shasane, in his own governing situation. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. O noble one, if the king sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original cause of the cosmic manifestation, and the super soul within everyone is worshipped, the Lord will be satisfied. Purport. It is a fact that the government's duty is to see the Supreme Personality, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is satisfied by the activities of the people as well as by the activities of the government. There is no possibility of happiness if the government or citizenry have no idea of Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the original cause of the cosmic manifestation, or if they have no knowledge of Bhutha Bhavana, who is Vishwatma, or the super soul, the soul of everyone's soul. The conclusion is that without engaging in devotional service, neither the citizens nor the government can be happy in any way. At the present moment, neither the king nor the governing body is interested in seeing that the people are engaged in the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, they are more interested in advancing the machinery of sense gratification. Consequently, they are becoming more and more implicated in the complex machinery of the stringent laws of nature. People should be freed from the entanglement of the three moods of material nature, and the only process by which this is possible is surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is advised in the Bhagavad Gita. Unfortunately, neither the government nor the people in general have any idea of this. They are simply interested in sense gratification and being happy in this life. The word Nija Shasane, in his own government duty, indicates that both the government and the citizens are responsible for the execution of Varnashrama Dharma. Once the populace is situated in the Varnashrama Dharma, there is every possibility of real life and prosperity, both in this world and in the next. Sure. Thank you again for this opportunity. Yesterday morning's lecture was an amazing lecture, and it spoke a lot about the Varnashrama Dharma and these wonderful advice which is being given here by the Brahmanas. And in the yesterday's lecture, we also looked at the context in which this verse appeared. So I'm just not going to repeat the whole context of this chapter. And this is all good advice being given about governance. But these are the three features I'm going to touch on today. And all these three principles appear in the purport of this verse. And we will do, since this is Bhagavatam class, all of you are very advanced in the scriptures. So I will go do a little small thesis of these three topics here. The Lord is the basic principle underlying existence. This is the first point I will cover today. The second one is the Lord is the cause of all causes. And the third one is the Lord is the super soul of everything in existence. It appears simple, these three concepts, and it appears that this can be easily understood. But our previous acharyas have written extensively on these three conclusions here, which are there in the purport. The other part of the purport is about governance and Varna Ashrama Dharma, I'm not going to talk much about it. It was extensively covered in yesterday morning's lecture. So it was a very beautiful lecture. I'm not repeating that part again. So we'll take the first one here, that the Lord is the basic principle underlying existence. So we'll start with a simple verse here. I've taken this verse here because Srila Jiva Goswami talks extensively about this verse in his Bhagavad Sandarbha. In fact, the first several Anuchedas are pretty much based on this one particular verse. Vadanti tat tattvavedam tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdayate. It looks a simple verse, Vadanti, they are saying, what are they saying about the absolute truth? Tattva, Advayam, there's non-dual substance, and it appears in three features. One is Brahman, one is Paramatma, one is Bhagavan. Brahman, Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabdayate. So the learned seers are saying this. So this is the basic translation of this verse. But Prabhupada himself has written a very extensive purport on this particular verse, and we are going to touch on one angle here, that the absolute truth is both the subject and the object. So the verse here is saying Advayam, that means qualitatively, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, all are spirit in nature. And since they're all spirit in nature, they are qualitatively one. But those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth, that means that this is in the spiritual world. Okay, so this is from Bhagavad Sandarbha. Those who are perfect seers of the absolute truth, those who can see the spiritual domain, not with material eyes, pluck the material eyes out and put in the spiritual eyes in, and then they are able to see the spiritual world, such seers of the absolute truth. Okay, they know well that these three features, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, they are different perspectives of view seen in different angles of vision. Okay, so that is in the relative world, the knower and the known are different. For example, if I am the knower and this table is the knower is different, the known is different. Okay, so I am knowing this table. The known may be this chair, the knower may be some other living entity. The knower and the known are different. But in the absolute truth, in the spiritual world, they all are spiritual in nature. And hence, both the knower and the known are the same substance. It is spirit. So there is no it is advayam. That means it is all, everything is spirit. Okay, so that means in the absolute truth, the subject and the object is the same. So this is the first conclusion that Jiva Goswami is making. Okay, now, so the same thing I've explained here. Different vision in the material and the spiritual world. Okay, in the relative world, the knower is the living spirit. Okay, or who's the superior energy, para prakriti. Whereas known is the inert matter or the inferior energy. Therefore, there is duality of inferior and superior energy. So from a material angle, as long as we are trapped in the material world, there is this duality of the inferior and the superior energy. The living being who is, when we are in contact with the illusory energy, okay, we also think that we belong to the illusory energy. So the scientists say that matter is the source of the life itself is matter, because one has associated themselves with the inferior energy, and therefore thinks that the living entity thinks that they also are part of the inferior energy without realizing that they are spirit. Therefore, there is a sense of relativity in this material world. So everything, we say so many things in this material world, we say, okay, that is a very good act. This is a bad act. All these things are in a relative sense, because what is good to us may not be good to somebody else. What is rich for us may not be rich for somebody else. So for that particular knower, a certain known appears in a certain way, and that is relative. But in the absolute realm, both the knower and the known are of the same superior energy. Okay, that is, everything is spirit. So in the absolute truth, there is no sense of difference between the knower and the known. Both the knower is spirit and the known is spirit. So if everything is spirit, then where comes the variegatedness in the spirit? So that is covered in the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Is an amazing verse, which Prabhupada himself has written one of the longest purports for this particular verse. Canto 1, chapter 1, verse 1. In fact, one can study this verse alone for several days and try to learn to understand. I've given one analogy here, which is a very nice analogy. It is coming from this purport. The Lord is compared to a mine of gold. Okay, so we have a gold mine, and the Lord is compared, and this is okay, and the cosmic creations is in so many different forms are compared to like gold necklace, gold rings, and so many things made of this gold. Okay, so what does this mean? The Lord is, if you compare with the gold mine, okay, so here this is the spiritual mine, and all these things emanate out of the Lord and are made in various variegated forms. They all have forms. They all are variegated spiritual forms. That's why we are saying the supreme personality of Godhead. The God, the gold ring and the gold necklace are qualitatively one with the gold mine, but quantitatively the gold in the mine is different. Nothing is absolutely equal with the absolute truth, but at the same time, nothing is independent of the absolute truth. So, so all these gold ornaments, they all emanate, all various gold particles, they all emanate from the gold mine. But the thing is, all those gold particles can get covered by the illusory sand. Okay, that is the Mahamaya. Whereas the gold mine always stands distinct, untouched by the illusion. So I'll take this verse here. This is Jiva Goswami writes his own commentary for the Shatsandarbha called as the Sarvasamvadini. So the Sarvasamvadini appears throughout the Bhagavata Sandarbha, okay, which is the all the 6 Sandarbhas. And so this particular comment comes from the Paramatma Sandarbha, Anucheda 78, where he first uses this word, Achintya Bheda Veda. Swamateyetva Achintya Bheda Veda Eva Achintya Shakti Mayatvad Iti. So there is a definition. So he's giving Iti. So this is the definition of Achintya Bheda Veda. It appears in the as the commentary for, it is not appearing in the Paramatma Sandarbha, but it is appearing as the commentary for the Paramatma Sandarbha, Anucheda 78. And analysis is here. So what is the inconceivable potency? So the first thing, this is actually the expansion of this purport from where we can see that here all that exists is spiritual. Okay, so that is the we just said there is the gold mine, and then there is all these gold necklaces and so on. So all that exists is spiritual. So Jiva Goswami gives this particular definition here: the pot and the clay example. The pot is an effect while the clay is not an effect. So what does this mean? It means so the pot is an effect while the clay is the cause. So from clay, you can make a pot. So clay is the cause, and then you make a pot out of it, which is the effect. Therefore, clay, the cause, is different from the pot. Okay. So, however, ultimately, pot and clay are of the same substance. So what does this mean here? So this means both the Lord, the Bhagavan, and the living entity, individual soul, they're all made of spirit. Okay, so the pot and the clay are the same substance. Okay, they both are made of spirit. Okay, so that is one part here. The second thing is, nevertheless, all the spirit souls still emanate from the Lord. The soul, the spirit souls are still dependent. They still emanate from the Lord. That means before the pot, the clay alone exists. The word cause is used for the clay alone and never for the pot. Likewise, the effect is used only for the pot. So it means that there is an absolute difference between the clay and the pot, and there is an absolute oneness between the clay and the pot, both being the same material clay. In this case, in the this is the analogy. Okay, the analogies are never perfect, but the spirit and the Lord, both the Lord is spirit in nature, the living entity is spirit in nature, but still the cause and the effect are never the same. They're absolutely different at all circumstances, and they're absolutely one in all circumstances. So this is a small understanding of the first part of this purport, which says that everything rests on the Lord. We'll take the second part here, that the Lord is the cause of all causes. So this is the famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattaha sarvam pravartate, that Krishna is the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Okay, that everything emanates from Krishna. The wise who perfectly know this, they engage in the devotional service and worship Krishna with all their hearts. This is a very nice verse. Aham. So Krishna clearly says here that Krishna himself is a source of. So this, when we say that the pot comes from the clay, so here is the other verse here in the Bhagavad Gita, which is substantiating the verse in the Sarva Sambhadini, where everything is emanating from Krishna, because all there exists is spirit, and all the spirit entities, they are emanating from the Lord himself. This verse is also a highly misused verse by different without understanding this verse under proper disciplic succession. People can misinterpret this verse by thinking that this aham refers to the spirit soul, but Krishna is clearly using the word here aham. Krishna is the primordial personality and the cause of all causes. So another evidence for this comes from the Narayana Upanishad. Narayana Brahma Jayate. Okay, Brahma emanates from Narayana. Narayana Prajapati Prajayate. Narayanaad Indro Jayate. Narayanaad Ashto Vasavo Jayante. Narayanaad Ekadasha Rudra Jayante. Narayanaad Dvadasha Aditya, and so on. From Narayana, Brahma appears, and from Narayana, all the patriarchs are also born. From Narayana, Indra is born. From Narayana, the 8 Vasus are born, Ashtavasu. From Narayana, the 11 Rudras are born. And from Narayana, the 12 Adityas are born. And Narayana himself is an expansion of Krishna. And we can see that in actually so many verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yate Chamsha Kalapumshaha, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. And Jiva Goswami himself does an extensive analysis of that particular verse. These are some distinct verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam where we can find extensive commentary from the Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas, 1.2.11, and then this is 1.3.28. All these verses, we can find extensive commentary on these verses. So every branch of the Vedanta, we see, it all says the same thing, which the Madhvacharya cites in his Anubhashya of the Vedanta Sutra, where he says, Vede, Ramayane, cha Purane, Bharate, Tata, Adav, Madhye cha Antye cha Hari Sarvatra Giyate. This is cited in the Chaitanya Charitamrita as well. Vede, if you take the Vedas, Ramayana, if you take the Ramayana, Purane in the Puranas, Bharate in the Mahabharata, Adav in the beginning, Madhyecha in the middle, Antya in the end. Everywhere Hari is being sung, Hari Sarvatra Giyate. The verse originally appears in the Garuda Purana, and then it is cited in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but the purports, Prabhupada says that it is taken from the commentary of Madhvacharya from his Anubhashya of the Vedanta Sutra. So this one, again, the famous verse 1.1.1, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadasya Yato. So this verse, if you see, oh my Lord Sri Krishna, this is taken directly from the translation of this verse. Son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth, the Sarva Karana Karanam, the primordial cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. Okay, so the manifested universes, which are also spiritual in nature for the spiritual eyes, but in the material realm, it appears as matter. And all, because anything that emanates out of Krishna will also be spiritual in nature, because there is no matter as far as as far as Krishna is concerned, there is nothing, matter does not touch Krishna. So everything emanates is actually spirit. But when we with our material eyes see it, it appears as matter, being disconnected from Krishna. Anukulya, Krishna Anushilam. So whenever it is dovetailed with Krishna, when we are able to see that as spirit. And Krishna is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. Krishna is there, even though Krishna always stays in the 4th dimension and he's independent because there is no other cause beyond him. Okay, so all this is taken directly from the translation of the first and the purport of the first verse of the Bhagavatam. This is another Bhagavad Gita verse as proof that Krishna is the source and Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma. So this is where Brahman is being defined here in the Bhagavad Gita. Tasmin Garbham Dadamyam. So the total material substance, which is called as the Mahat Tattva, which is described in detail in the second canto, is described as Brahman in the Vedic literature. That is the spirit. Brahman means spirit. The Supreme Spirit impregnates that Brahman with the seeds of the living entities. So the material nature is not the cause of the birth of the living entities. It means matter is not the cause of the inferior energy, is not the cause of the birth of the living entities, but the seed, the bija, is being given by the Lord himself. The Lord is the cause of all manifestations of the living entities in this material world. Okay, the Lord himself is the cause, the Lord impregnates, and the Lord is non-different and different simultaneously from these expansions, which are entirely spiritual in nature and just appears material to the conditioned souls. This is another verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Again, proof for the same thing. Krishna is the source of all that exists. Aham Adirhi Devanam. All the gods, the host of Devas, none of them actually know the source of Krishna. If we can actually imagine that. You see so many nitty-gritty things. Everything in this world is so much let's say that a grass moves or a fragrance comes from this. Everything is intricately controlled ultimately by Krishna, directly or indirectly, ultimately by Krishna. Then what is that potency of Krishna? We take it very lightly sometimes, but we sometimes don't realize what is the position of Krishna. It is not something which can be taken as very lagu, which is taken as very with ease. The position of Krishna is so if a simple example, in somebody's life, they face so many difficulties and so-called happiness, and but every one of this is intricately controlled with their own karma. Whether it is in the root phase as bija, or whether it is kuta, or whether it is fully manifest prarabdha, or if it all these things to that level, every living entity, if it is so wonderfully designed, then we can just imagine what is the position of Krishna. Even though he may be not directly controlling it, he may be doing it through his various expansions and all these things. He may still be aloof in his own dimension, but then the position of Krishna is so much supreme that we sometimes don't realize it. At least maybe there are the Uttama Adhikari may be able to see that, but but by and large, the conditioned souls of this world are not able to see. We don't even know what is the treasure that we have here in the form of the scripture, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam. We just don't. Sometimes we don't really take it sometimes lightly, and but the Bhagavatam can shape people's life. It not only provides the ultimate conclusion, but we have problems in material world. The Bhagavatam has solution. Whatever problems, there are devotees there who have had those problems, who, if you want to know how to pray to the Lord, the Bhagavatam gives examples of how devotees have prayed to the Lord, how devotees have, what kind of prayers they've offered. If you want to advance in spiritual life, the Bhagavatam has answers. The Bhagavatam is not something to be taken lightly, because even the other scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, they're all spiritual in nature, but even they may offer different goals in terms of material advancements. But the Bhagavatam rejects all those advancements, whether it is in dharma, artha, kama, moksha, everything it rejects, and all varieties of religion it rejects, and goes into the supreme spiritual domain, completely goes out of the material realm. And sometimes we just don't understand the seriousness of the subject matter and the seriousness of Krishna himself. Therefore, for in every respect, even Brahma himself is not able to fathom the position of Krishna. And in that sense, and Brahma is the highest of the living entity, who has 78% of the features in full of what the absolute truth can possess. Then even that, in the position of Brahma himself, is not able to fathom, what to speak of living entities like us. What we have got here is extremely valuable object, and with full greed, if we take this in, it will really help us. The last part is the Lord is a super soul of everything in existence. After this, I will finish this, and please correct me for any mistakes I have said here. There are definitely mistakes possible. So here is the ontogeny. When we talk about the super soul, this purport talks about the super soul. He's all this, the Brahmanas there, they're giving advice to this King Vena, but King Vena, it is going through his ears. He doesn't want to listen to all these things, but they are talking about an ideal. He's ruling whimsically, get up in the yesterday, in the lecture, how Prabhuji very beautifully said about whimsical rule. You get up in the morning, you have some morning beverage, and then you think, okay, this is what I'm going to do today for the governance of the nation. Let me go do it. That kind of whimsical governance is what is described here with King Vena. And so with that, with the ontogeny of super soul, is being given as an advice by the Brahmanas here to King Vena here. The three Purushas, one is Karno, Daka, Shayi, Vishnu. Shayi means lying down. Garbo, Daka, Shayi, Vishnu. Kshiro, Daka, Shayi, Vishnu, who is the super soul. And this is described actually in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Pretty much our metaphysics and the theology, all what we learn is actually derived from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which gives the, especially if you see the first canto, the first Adi Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it gives you in detail the theology that we are using here to understand, and it is complete. No other, even the other Vaishnava Sampradayas who take different aspects of theology and explain, the Chaitanya Charitamrita gives it as a complete compendium of uh, why certain forms of Vishnu have Brahma coming from the navel pit. If you see the deities in different temples in India, some Vishnus have that, some Vishnus don't have Brahma coming. Why is that? Because the Vishnu whose navel pit Brahma is not coming, that Vishnu is Kshirodakasai Vishnu. But the Vishnu from whom the Brahma is coming, he is Garbhodakasai Vishnu. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita gives answers to pretty much anything that we want to understand about theology, whether it is Lord Shiva, whether it is the forms of Vishnu, everything we can understand from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. These three Purushas, where are they lying? The causal ocean, the Karana ocean, the Garbha ocean, and the Kshira ocean. Okay, the Kshira is milk. And okay, so Karano Dakasai Vishnu is referred to in the Chaitanya. This is Adi Leela 2.52 is the verse. Is a super soul of all collective universes. Okay, so that is where it is referred to. Garbho Dakasai Vishnu is a super soul of the collective living beings, and Shiro Dakasai Vishnu is a super soul of the individual living entities. So that means, like, when we usually talk about as super soul, we are referring to Kshirodakasai Vishnu. But then there are three Purushas who are being described here in this particular. So this is a definition of this or categorization of the super soul. But above them, in the fourth dimension, Lord Krishna is there with no contact with the material energy. With no contact with the material energy. And but Lord Shiva, I'll add one point there. Prabhupada says that sometimes he is fully counted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 7. There, if you take the verses around 18, 20, so around 20 to 35, 45, around all those verses there. It talks about different features of, it talks about the potent the potent and the potency. Okay, that is the Shaktiman and the Shakti. That is, it talks about there, and the position of Lord Shiva there. Sometimes he is counted in the Shaktiman, sometimes he is counted in the Shakti. So the position of Lord Shiva is very complex in that sense, because when he is fully in the spirit, as Sadashiva is fully in the spiritual domain, he is counted in the Shaktiman domain, but he is also in contact with matter. And how is he in contact with matter? Because his consort is the material energy. When he's in contact with, he's also in contact with the actual material energy, who is Durga Devi herself. At that time, he's counted in the living entity side. So we can see that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 7, there are a series of verses there. So here is again the thing between the soul and the super soul. Dva Suparna Sayujha Sakhaya. So this is Shvetashvatara Upanishad 4.6. There are two birds in one tree. One of them is eating the fruits of the tree, which is the living entity, while the other is witnessing the actions. This is a proof of the existence of the super soul, to not put everything under the rug and say that everything is spirit, everything is non-dual, all there exists is just Brahman. Okay, Kaya. So here is a proof that there is something called, it is not just the Bhagavatam which is saying that there is super soul and there is Bhagavan. Upanishads are also saying the same thing. So no scripture contradicts each other. There may be contradictions in statements here and there, but that is only because we are not seeing it in the proper light. But when we see it in under the proper disciplic succession, then we see even those statements properly. So there are two birds. Okay, one is witnessing the other. Okay, so the other verse is the Mundaka Upanishad. That almost the same words appear also in the Katha Upanishad. This is I took this from the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.2. Samani Vrikshe, that is a tree, Purusho Nimagno. Although there are two birds in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety. That is a living entity full of anxiety, moroseness. We're always morose. That is the predominant feature, always morose, always sad, always happiness. Even though the Bhagavatam says happiness and distress comes in cycle, but the happiness is no happiness. It is just some decrease in the misery. And then as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree, but if in some way or the other, if that living entity turns their face to the Lord and knows the glories of the Lord, at once the suffering of the bird becomes free from all anxiety. Vaikunta, all free from all anxiety, entirely situated in the spiritual domain. Brahma, Bhuta, Prasannatma, Nasochati, Nakangshati. And what is that? We need to be first situated in the spiritual domain, even for us to progress further into Krishna Bhakti. In fact, being situated in the spiritual domain is a prerequisite for Krishna Bhakti. So this is my last but one slide. So the Brahma Samhita talks about the Lord in the distant transcendent feature, as well as in the immanent as a super soul. In the Bhagavan feature, as we can see here, as Garbhodakasai Vishnu, he is present everywhere. Okay, so he is present in every universe. And what does it say? Andhantarastam. Okay, so I'll just take that part alone. And then this is also in another place in the Brahma Samhita. Again, it says, Goloke eva nivasati akilatma bhuto. I worship Govinda, the primordial Lord residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radharani, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of ecstatic potency, possessed of 64 artistic activities in the company of our confidants. Sakhi's embodiments of the extensions of our bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. Brahma Samhita 5.37. So the Lord is transcendent. This is the Bhagavan feature. And the Lord is also immanent as the super soul within every, not just in everyone's heart, he's present in every atom. That is this verse, Paramanu, which means in all atom. Paramanu Chayantarastam, he is also present in every atom. That is why there is motion within an atom. That is why there is electrons are in different positions, they are moving, the protons, any movement you take, everything, because the source is that, because there is a super soul, even though the individual soul is not existing in all this jada, the super soul is still there, because everything is actually spiritual in nature, and the super soul is there. That is why it says this verse, Paramanu Chayantarasam. If we look at it very deeply, we can say every atom, the super soul is permeating, and it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Suppose Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam, Bhagavan Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtati. This is referring to the super soul in individual heart, but the Brahma Samhita refers to the super soul, the spiritual, the Lord as Kshirodakasai Vishnu present in every atom. Every atom paramanu chayantarastam everywhere. So with this, I will stop here. And so this is basically the purport. And one more word, I will just talk 1 minute about it, which is this word here called as Vishwatma, which is referred to as super soul. Even the 1,000 words of Lord Vishnu spoken by Bhishma also starts with a similar thing. Vishwam, Vishnu, Vashakaraha, Bhutabhavya Bhavat Prabhu. So that means the Lord as a super soul, he's starting as even those Maharaj Yudhishthir as Bhishma of who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Bhishma immediately turns to his side and says, he's standing right next to you. Krishna is standing right next to you. And then he starts these things as Vishwam, Vishnu, Vishatkar. So it's the same here as Vishwatma, okay, that the super soul is existing as a soul of everyone's soul. Okay, so we covered all the three different aspects of here. The only worst thing I didn't talk about is all about the government. We spoke about that yesterday in the lecture. So if I have said anything wrong, please correct me. I know you're all exalted Vaishnavas here. So Vancha Kalpatrabhyascha Kripa Sindhu Behavicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Thank you. Yes, Prabhuji.
So that you refer to one verse, right? All the Vedas, Lord is the very beginning and that verse.
In Chaitanya Charitamrita, I will send you by text, Prabhu. Off top of my head, I don't remember, but it comes in multiple places. It's also there in the purport in so many places. It is there in the Madhya Lila, but I'll give you the exact verse. I'll text you, Prabhu. We'll stop here.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Very wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question I have heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Jada or the Prakrut, what we see all around material elements, are also kind of the degraded version of the consciousness, like a living entity continues to behave in such a way that material nature awards lower and lower consciousness to that living entity. And eventually, if we understand, I mean, one version is that we were all Brahma at once, and then we decided to enjoy separately from Krishna, so that we have been given the opportunity to enjoy separately, and we became what we are in different living entities or living forms. But is it, because you said in every what do you call, the material element, there is no soul, or only a super soul exists. But what I heard about something on the spirit, like the material element or material what do you call, atom or Paramanu also had consciousness at one point. Is that something true?
Prabhu, they are not living entities, Prabhu. That is Jada. But there are two kinds of vision here. One is the material vision and one is the spiritual vision. So when we see from our material eyes, all these, let's say the table, the chair, they're all matter. They are not living entities. That is Jada.
Yes.
There is a clear distinction. That is, they don't belong to the superior energy. They are not, that is not Paraprakriti. That is matter. So there are three kinds of elements here. One is called Ishvara. The second one is called Jada. And the third one is called Jiva. So you have Ishvara, Jada, Jiva. If you put like three circles, Ishvara, Jada, and Jiva. And what we can see here is that all these three are absolutely different. Okay. And there is nothing The Jada is fully material and it is absolutely different from the soul. And the soul is fully different from the Ishvara, the controller. And the Ishvara is different from Jada and Jiva. So this is the absolute difference that exists between the three. And at the same time, all Ishvara, Jada, Jiva, when looked at from this with the spiritual eyes, they are all spirit in nature. And therefore, it depends on which angle you're seeing from. If you're seeing from the material eyes, the Jada is not a living entity. It belongs to the inferior energy. It belongs to the material energy. It is matter. But the Lord is all pervading. And therefore, this verse says here, Paramanu Jayantarastam. That is the Brahma Samhita verse. But when we look at from the spiritual angle, but it is not some theoretical looking that today I look at it from the material eyes, tomorrow I look at it from the spiritual eyes. The advanced devotee is able to somebody who is there in the Brahman platform, at least that is the minimum platform, the Brahma Bhuta platform, they are able to see things as it is. And what is as it is? Everything that exists are variegated forms of spirit. Okay, it depends on which kind of chakshu, which kind of eyesight that in a conditioned perspective, this is all Jada. There is matter. We see duality. There is Jada. There is Paraprakriti. There is Ishvara. We see all these differences are seen in the conditioned vision. Okay, so this is the vision of duality, vision of conditioned soul. But the self-realized soul, those at least who are Atmarama, who are self-satisfied, who are at the Brahman platform, they are able to see things as all that exists as spirit. Okay, but once who has come to the Bhagavan realization, they're able to see the variegatedness in the spirit. The spirit, it is not in all the thing that exists also there. They don't see it as a conglomerate spiritual ball which is completely undifferentiated. They don't see it like that. They are able to see a differentiated spiritual world which is full of variegatedness. There, if you see the river Yamuna, it is a spiritual river which is flowing and beautifully in service of Krishna. How is the river Yamuna going to serve Krishna if it is only matter? But from a conditioned perspective, the river Yamuna appears as matter. But from a spiritual perspective, the river Yamuna is fully spiritual. From a conditioned perspective, the Govardhan hill appears as matter made of dust or rock or whatever. But then from a spiritual perspective, the Govardhan hill is a personality of variegated spiritual nature completely in the service of the personality of Godhead.
Okay, bro. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
We'll stop here. Vanchakalpadabhyascha kripasindhabhyo cha paitaram pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namaha.